Have you ever felt like you rely too much on others to feel good? Have you gone through tough times where it seemed like no one was there for you? If so, it's time to change that. It's time to learn how to be strong on your own. The truth is, life won't pause while you recover, and expecting others to always be there to lift you up is a mistake. Emotional strength doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within, and the Stoics understood this better than anyone. In this video, you'll learn in 5 key lessons how to develop an unshakable mindset, how to find security within yourself, and how to apply Stoic wisdom to become emotionally strong. So stick around until the end, because each lesson here might be exactly what you need to transform your life. Before we dive in, if you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any content that helps you live a more fulfilled life. To give you a better understanding of what we're going to cover today, here's a short story. It was a cold morning when David found himself sitting alone on a park bench, watching the world move around him. He had just been through a rough time, the end of a relationship and the loss of his job. Everything felt like it was falling apart. For years he had relied on others for a sense of security, but now there was no one left to guide him. In that same park, an elderly man named Michael, who always carried a book in his hands, noticed David's somber expression. Without hesitation, he walked over and sat down beside him. Michael, a lifelong student of philosophy, could tell that David was lost in destructive thoughts. Without beating around the bush, he spoke. "The greatest prison a man can build isn't made of bars. It's the dependence he creates on others." Then he mentioned something Emperor Marcus Aurelius once wrote. "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Intrigued, David turned to the old man and asked what he meant. Michael smiled and told him the story of Epictetus, a former slave who, despite his condition, understood that true freedom wasn't about breaking chains. It was about mastering his emotions and reactions. "If you want to be unshakable," Michael said, quoting the philosopher, "you must learn not to be shaken by what you cannot control." David took a moment to reflect. He realized that he had always sought security in external things, relationships, work, the opinions of others. He had never considered that real strength comes from within. Michael continued, mentioning how Seneca had warned about the dangers of expecting happiness to come from the outside world. Seneca once wrote, "If you don't know which port you're sailing to, no wind will be favorable." David remained silent, absorbing every word. Then Michael suggested an exercise. Make a list of everything that's within your control, your thoughts, your choices, your attitude toward challenges. If you focus only on those things, life will start to feel lighter. Over the next few days, David began applying these lessons. He stopped dwelling on what he had lost and started viewing each difficulty as a test. Whenever he felt overwhelmed, he reminded himself of Marcus Aurelius's words, "The fire feeds greatness." Instead of running from his problems, he used them to grow stronger. Time passed, and little by little he realized he no longer needed external validation to feel strong. He was learning to be resilient, to find security within himself. And then, one day, he returned to that same park and found Michael again. This time he wasn't hunched over in despair. He looked at the old man and, without saying a word, smiled. Michael understood. David had learned the lesson. Now, let's dive into the 5 lessons that will help you become emotionally strong on your own. Lesson 1. Control what's within your reach and let go of the rest. Stoicism teaches us a fundamental truth. A lot of things in life are beyond our control. What others think of you, what happens in the world, the past, and even some consequences of your own actions. None of these are fully in your hands. But there is one thing you do have complete control over: your mind, your reactions, and your choices. Imagine Lucas, a dedicated professional who notices that his boss constantly criticizes his work without much reasoning. He feels frustrated and anxious because no matter how hard he tries, it never seems to be enough. Then Lucas remembers a lesson from Epictetus. It's not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. He realizes he can't control his boss's opinion, but he can control how he responds to it. Instead of feeling defeated, He focuses on what's within his power, improving his skills, maintaining a professional attitude, and, if necessary, looking for new opportunities. Next time you receive criticism, ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, don't waste energy on it. Take what's useful and move forward. Anna has a friend who constantly cancels plans at the last minute. She feels frustrated and undervalued. But after reflecting on Marcus Aurelius's teachings, she remembers, if you are troubled by something external, it is not the thing itself that disturbs you, but your judgment of it. She realizes she can't change her friend's behavior, but she can change her expectations. Instead of getting upset, she sets clear boundaries and stops stressing over something she can't control. Whenever you feel disappointed by someone, remember, you can't control others, only your own actions. Adjust your expectations and protect your peace. Then there's Peter. Every morning, before even getting out of bed, he's already scrolling through social media. Within minutes, he's bombarded with bad news, controversies, and opinions that make him angry. He spends the rest of the day feeling anxious over things he can't change, so he decides to take a Stoic approach. He limits his news consumption, focuses on what he can do to improve his own life, and channels his energy into concrete actions. After all, as Seneca said, getting angry over things you can't change is a waste of life. If something you read or watch online is robbing your peace and you have no power to change it, cut back on consuming useless information. Shift your attention to what you can actually influence. The key to becoming emotionally stronger is understanding this distinction: what's within your control and what isn't. Accept what you can't change and invest your energy only in what depends on you. Lesson 2. Face pain and challenges as strength tests. Life is full of challenges. Hard times are inevitable, but Stoicism teaches us that instead of running from pain, we should face it as a test of strength. As Marcus Aurelius said, what stands in the way becomes the way. Jack always dreamed of starting his own business. After months of hard work, his first venture failed. He felt defeated, believing he wasn't good enough. But after studying Stoicism, Jack came across a quote from Seneca: "Gold is tested by fire, the brave are tested by adversity." He realized that failure wasn't the end, it was a lesson. Instead of dwelling on disappointment, he analyzed his mistakes, adjusted his strategy, and tried again, this time better prepared. Whenever something doesn't go as planned, see it as a test, not a punishment. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Caroline went through a painful breakup. In the first few days, she felt lost, unsure of how to move on. But then she remembered a lesson from Epictetus. Don't seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do, and your life will be peaceful. She realized that instead of asking, why did this happen to me? She should be asking, how can I grow from this? Instead of running from the pain, she decided to face it head-on and use it as fuel to become a stronger, more independent person. When dealing with emotional pain, don't resist or deny it. Accept it, learn from it, and use the experience as a stepping stone for growth. Luke was always into sports, but an accident forced him to stop training. At first, he felt discouraged, convinced he'd never get back to where he was. One day, he came across a quote from Marcus Aurelius: "If you are suffering because of something external, the pain does not come from the thing itself, but from your perception of it. You have the power to change that perception." Inspired by this idea, he decided to focus on what he could do. He built a new routine, adapted his workouts, and slowly regained his strength, both physically and mentally. If you're facing a physical challenge, shift your mindset. Instead of focusing on what you've lost, focus on what you can do to rebuild. Mary worked hard, but one day she was unexpectedly fired. She felt it was unfair, but then she remembered a Stoic lesson. Difficulty strengthens the mind, just as effort strengthens the body. She chose to see the situation as a fresh start. She used the time to develop new skills and ended up finding an even better job. When facing a setback at work, ask yourself, how can this situation make me stronger and lead me to something better? Life's challenges are unavoidable, but how you handle them makes all the difference. Every obstacle is a test. Every hardship is training to make you mentally stronger. Lesson 3. Practice self-discipline and emotional minimalism. We live in a world full of distractions, impulses, and emotional excesses. Stoicism teaches that true strength comes from self-discipline and emotional minimalism. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You must become the master of yourself before trying to master anything else." Peter always struggled to control his impulses. Whenever he felt anxious or frustrated, he looked for instant escape, whether through social media, food, or even unnecessary arguments. One day he came across a teaching from Epictetus: "No man is free if he is not master of himself." He realized he was a slave to his own impulses and decided to take action. He started training his self-discipline by setting small rules for himself, like waiting 5 minutes before making an impulsive decision or limiting his time on social media. Over time, he noticed that the more control he had over his actions, the lighter his life became. Next time you feel the urge to act on impulse, pause for a few seconds and ask yourself, is this making me stronger or weaker? Small changes in your routine lead to big results. Anna used to overreact to everyday situations. If someone was rude to her, her whole day would be ruined. If a plan didn't go as expected, she felt completely defeated. Then she remembered a quote from Seneca: "A man who is angered by everything is a slave to everything." She realized she was letting external factors control her emotions. From that moment on, she decided to apply emotional minimalism. She started asking herself, "Does this really deserve my energy?" She soon discovered that most of the things that upset her were insignificant. Whenever something irritates or upsets you, take a deep breath and ask yourself, will this matter a month from now? If the answer is no, then it's not worth your concern. Gavin always thought he needed more to be happy, more money, more status, more approval from others. He was constantly chasing those things, yet he never felt satisfied. Then he came across the idea of Stoic minimalism and read something from Epictetus. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few needs. He realized that happiness wasn't about accumulating more, but about needing less. He started simplifying his life, eliminating excess, and focusing on what truly mattered. He spent less time and energy on superficial things, and more on what actually brought value to his life. And to his surprise, he felt lighter and happier. Make a list of what you truly need to live well. Eliminate what doesn't add value to your life. Fewer distractions mean more clarity and inner peace. Mary wanted to have more control over her emotions and actions, but realized it wouldn't happen automatically. She read about Marcus Aurelius and his habit of writing in a journal every day to reflect on his successes and failures. She decided to do the same. She created a daily self-reflection routine. Every night she would write down what she did well, what she could improve, and which emotions she needed to manage better. Over time, she noticed that this small habit was strengthening her self-discipline and making her emotionally more balanced. Take 5 minutes out of your day to reflect on your actions. Write down what you've learned and how you can improve. Self-knowledge is the key to self-control. Self-discipline and emotional minimalism are powerful tools for living with more clarity and control. Eliminate what's unnecessary, train your mind, and become the master of yourself. Lesson 4. Accept the impermanence of everything and let go of what isn't eternal. Everything in life is temporary. People, moments, emotions, and material possessions, nothing lasts forever. But instead of seeing this as something negative, Stoicism teaches that impermanence is an opportunity to live better. As Marcus Aurelius said, everything we see will one day pass. Only the present is truly ours. Anna always feared losing the people around her. Whenever a relationship ended or a friendship drifted apart, she suffered deeply, feeling as if something was being ripped away from her. But one day, while studying Stoicism, she read a teaching from Epictetus. Never say about anything, "I have lost it," but instead, "I have returned it." Anna realized that no one truly belongs to anyone. People naturally come and go in our lives. The suffering came from attachment, not the loss itself. She started shifting her mindset. Instead of resisting change, she learned to accept it. She stopped trying to control who stayed or left. She began valuing the present without fearing the future. If you're hurting over someone who walked away, instead of thinking, "I lost this person," say, I was fortunate to have them in my life for a time. Appreciate what was without clinging to what's already gone. Charles always believed his happiness depended on what he owned. He chased after cars, expensive clothes, and recognition, but no matter how much he accumulated, he never felt satisfied. One day, he came across a quote from Seneca: "True happiness is not in having much, but in needing little." Charles realized his mistake was in being too attached to material things. He decided to simplify his life, and to his surprise, he found more peace and freedom. He started investing in experiences instead of possessions. He began asking himself, does this truly make me happy, or does it just give me a false sense of worth? He discovered that less is more, fewer things, fewer worries. Look around you. What do you truly need? Try letting go of something that's just taking up space in your life. See how it brings a sense of lightness. Jack had a big problem. He let his emotions control his life. When he was sad, he thought he'd feel that way forever. When he was happy, he feared it wouldn't last. He was constantly trapped in an emotional roller coaster. Then he discovered a teaching from Marcus Aurelius: pain is temporary, pleasure is too. Nothing lasts forever, except the serenity of those who accept this. Jack realized that all emotions come and go. There was no point in fighting against them. He started simply observing them, without clinging too tightly to either joy or sadness. When you're going through a tough moment, remind yourself, this too shall pass. Don't resist emotions, just let them run their natural course. Mary, always worried about the future. She prepared for everything, trying to avoid any unpleasant surprises. But deep down, she was wasting her present moments on anxiety, until she read a teaching from Epictetus: you do not control tomorrow only now. The future will come regardless. She realized she was spending energy on something that hadn't even happened yet. So she decided to change her approach and focus on what truly mattered, the present. She stopped living in what if and started asking, what can I do now? She reduced her anxiety by accepting that the future will always be uncertain. She began embracing each moment as it is, without trying to predict or control what's next. Whenever you feel anxious about the future, ask yourself, what can I do today? Live in the now, because it's the only thing that truly exists. Everything in life is impermanent. Accepting this is liberating. The more you cling, the more you suffer. The more you accept, the lighter you become. Lesson 5. Strengthen your mind with the practice of Memento. Mori, death is one of humanity's greatest fears. We run from the thought, avoid talking about it, and live as if we were immortal. But the Stoics did the opposite. They reflected on death every day. Memento Mori. Remember that you will die. This wasn't meant to create fear, but to bring clarity and urgency to life. As Seneca said, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Charles always wanted to change careers but kept putting it off. He told himself that one day he would finally gather the courage. He wanted to travel, spend more time with his family, and take better care of his health. But there was always an excuse to wait. One day, while reading Marcus Aurelius, he came across the quote, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do, say, and think. Charles realized he had been living as if he had all the time in the world. But the truth is, tomorrow is never guaranteed. He decided to take action. He stopped waiting for the perfect moment and started now. He prioritized what truly mattered. He lost the fear of trying because he understood that the greatest risk is wasting life itself. Ask yourself, if I only had 1 year left to live, what would I change? Now, start acting accordingly. Anna used to get anxious over the smallest things. If someone didn't reply to her messages, she would imagine 1,000 different scenarios. If she made a mistake at work, she would spend days punishing herself. One day, while studying Stoicism, she read something from Epictetus. You do not know when you will depart, so why waste time worrying about trivial things? She realized she had been spending her energy on things that didn't matter. By practicing Memento Mori, she started asking herself, does this really matter in the grand scheme of life? If I were to die tomorrow, would this still bother me? Am I spending my energy on what truly matters? Whenever you find yourself worrying, ask, Will this still be important a year from now, 5 years from now? If not, it's not worth your energy. Luke always feared what others thought of him. He avoided sharing his ideas, hesitated to make decisions because of judgment, and deep down lived a life that wasn't truly his own. Then one day he came across a quote from Seneca: "Hurry to live well, and think that each day by itself is a life." This changed everything. He realized he had been wasting his time trying to please others instead of living according to his own values. From that moment on, he decided not to let the fear of judgment stop him from taking action. He made choices based on what he truly wanted, not what others expected. He embraced authenticity and started living with more intensity. Ask yourself, if I didn't have much time left, would I still care about what others think? Stop postponing your authenticity. Mary used to complain all the time. She always felt like her life could be better, that something was missing. She spent more time focusing on what she lacked than appreciating what she already had. One day she came across a teaching from Marcus Aurelius: "Do not act as if you had 1,000 years to live. Time is slipping away. Use it well." She realized she needed to change her perspective. She began seeing each day as a gift. She started waking up every morning with gratitude for being alive. She learned to enjoy small moments, like a conversation or a cup of coffee. She decided to live without regrets, knowing that everything is temporary. Before going to bed, reflect, if today were my last day, would I have lived with gratitude? Turn every day into an opportunity to appreciate life. Memento Mori is not about fearing death, it's about valuing life. The more you remember that your time is limited, the stronger you become. If you've made it this far, congratulations. This shows that you are truly committed to strengthening your mind and seeking a path of greater balance and wisdom. Very few people have this willingness to learn and grow, and that alone sets you apart from the majority. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these lessons resonated with you the most? How can Memento Mori change the way you live? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you have nothing to say, just comment gratitude so I'll know you watched until the end. Take this reflection and start applying this knowledge today. See you in the next video.